Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. This is part 6 of What If Naruto Was a League Summoner. If you guys enjoy this what if, and want to see part 7 of it, comment down below, and let me know. The like goal for this video is 200 likes. So like this video, to let me know that you're interested in this series, and you want the next part. I have created a playlist for this what if, where you can find all the previous parts, link is in the description. And go ahead and check out other what ifs in the channel. Before we start, please do support for more awesome content. Don't forget to subscribe and leave a like, and also share this video with your friends. So let's start this video. Never summon me again, or I will bring destruction down upon your world. The first thing Naruto felt upon becoming self-aware once again was the deep booming and full of mockery voice of the Star Forger, and for a brief second, it felt like he was floating in total darkness, and then he saw light. And soon found himself looking directly at the celestial dragon that was called Aurelian Soul, by the aspects of Mount Targon. And then the blonde woke up to find himself lying on his back. At first he could see anything because of his blurry vision, but after a few seconds or so of blinking repeatedly, he could see a ceiling above him, dark red in color. And the bed was too soft and comfortable to be something in a hospital or even an infirmary. When Naruto glanced to the side, he realized that he was in a bedroom, a rather luxurious one at that. A frown grew on his face. He wondered how he got here. Someone must have dragged him here after he lost consciousness. The last thing he remembered was Ria's bluish-green eyes as she flew toward him with tears of happiness in her eyes. They won, didn't they? The summoning Aurelian Soul to scare Razer off, then Naruto had no idea what else would bring them to victory. However, if they had truly won, then that meant his master was freed from the marriage engagement with that douchebag of a man, Razer Phoenix. Naruto was happy for her. Now his master could choose whoever she wanted to fall in love with and a future for herself. Ah, it looks like you're awake, Naruto-sama. The blonde then heard a familiar voice, and turned his head to see a certain silver-haired maid walking into the room with some fresh flowers in her hands. Grafia-san. The blonde greeted the woman as he sat up and realized that he was wearing a different outfit, a pajama of some sort that was dark red in color, and felt like it was made of silk. As Grafia Lucifuge walked to the table beside his bed, and changed the flowers in a crystal vase. Where am I? You're currently staying at a guest room of Gremory residence. Grafia informed him, if you need anything, please don't hesitate to ask me, Naruto-sama. Are you thirsty? Yeah, thanks. But why are you calling me Naruto-sama, if you don't mind me asking? He asked, looking at her in confusion. You don't like it? Grafia asked as she poured him a glass of water. Anyone who can single-handedly defeat a high-class devil, summon and wield the power of a nine-tailed Gumiho, a true phoenix and a celestial god dragon, is worthy of my respect. You know Hari is a Gumiho? And Aurelian Soul is a celestial god dragon? Naruto asked in surprise, remembering her words earlier. So far, everyone he had met who didn't know about League of Legends always referred to Hari as a Kyuubi, nine-tailed demon foxes of Japanese folklore, one of whom was actually the leader of the West Yokai faction. His power was said to be on par with an ultimate-class devil. While in truth Hari's basic concept was a Gumiho, a demon fox creature that appeared in the folktales and legends of Korea, making a Hari Korean. After your showcase of power in the rating game match against Razer Phoenix-sama, Ryozoju-sama has to give her brother and the devil higher-ups the clear reports of your power. To tell you the truth, you summoning a true phoenix was worrisome enough for some devils. But a celestial dragon like the Star Forger himself, it was a terrifying sight for those who were watching. Even I was lost for words. It's unlike anything I have seen before in my life. Naruto could only let out a forced chuckle at that, but he wasn't surprised. When we found out that your power came from your knowledge of an online video game called League of Legends, I have done some researches myself and learned about your summons, or champions. I see hope it didn't cause President too much trouble. Naruto nodded his head in understanding before asking, where is she, by the way? I have taken Ryozoju-sama to her room to rest. Grafia answered with a smile as she handed him a glass of water. She has been using her demonic power to refill your own reserve and quicken your recovery rate the past few days. Naruto choked, hitting his chest a few times as he lowered the glass of water down to ask the silver-haired woman. Wait, the past few days? Grafia-san, how long was I out? Not that he wasn't grateful for his master, who had taken care of him to the point she had to be taken to her room to rest, but his mind was entirely occupied by the fact that he was out for a few days. He had known that he would use a ton of demonic power in order to manifest Aurelian Soul to the world, but did he really deplete everything that he had at the time? 4 days, Naruto-sama. His fingers almost slipped from the glass of water in his hand. 4 days. He was out for 4 days just from summoning Aurelian Soul, who wasn't even at full power, because of the crown he was wearing, for like half a minute. And that was after he had promoted himself to queen as well to gain a tremendous boost in demonic power. Never summon you again. Very well, you overgrown space dog, your demand is accepted. Naruto thought in his mind, hoping that the Star Forger could hear him, even though he had not established a telepathic link between the two of them yet, not that he even wanted to. So did I miss anything important? He then asked while scratching the back of his head. Oh, nothing you should be concerned about, just a party to celebrate Ojusama's first rating game victory, against the genius Razer Phoenix and his peerage no less. Grafia answered obviously, we should have waited for you to wake up and get well first before holding this celebration party, as you are the one who was responsible for Phoenix-sama's defeat, but no one expected you to be out for so long, and invitations has already been sent out. So the Gremory has no choice but to continue on with what they had planned. Naruto nodded his head in understanding. In all honesty, Naruto was actually feeling glad that he had missed the party, where there were no doubt that he would have to uncomfortably meet a lot of high-class devils. However, since the Lord and Lady of the Phoenix household still wish to meet you in person, so you should expect a visit from them soon in the near future. Naruto asked in confusion, sweating a little while smiling nervously. They don't want to, roast me, and then have me as lunch for beating their son, and cancelling their engagement with the Gremory or anything like that, do they? I don't believe so. Grafia shook her head and answered him with a sweat drop. As you already know, the Firebird Phoenix is the symbol of their family, so I have a feeling they just want to meet with the young man who can summon a true phoenix wielding the power of ice, that's all. Ah, I see. I hope that there was no hard feeling. There wouldn't be. If anything, even the Lord of the Phoenix household admitted that his son had grown too arrogant and complacent in his inherited powers, and believed that the beating you gave him should be more than enough for him to learn some humility. Naruto raised an eyebrow in surprise at that. Razor's father sounded nothing like he had imagined him to, but then again, that douchebag of a fried chicken had a very cute and nice sister. Grafia then conjured a chair next to his bed, and took her seat there to continue her conversation with him. Now, let us move on to a more important matter. She began in a serious tone, making Naruto look over to her. I will be very frank with you, Naruto-sama. The summoning Anivia and Aurelian Soul has caused quite a ruckus among the devils the past few days. Naruto remained quiet and let Grafia tell him without interruption. He could already tell something like that had happened when Grafia told him Rias had to give a report of his sacred gear to the higher-ups of the devil faction and her brother. From the moment he found out he could summon the champions of the league, sentient, living and breathing beings with powers exactly the same as the ones they had to gain, Naruto had realized that he was holding in his hand an immense power with almost unlimited potential. The blonde knew, sooner or later, someone would start questioning what purposes he would use his great power for, to protect the innocents, to fight for those he cared about or to dominate the world or even to destroy it. To be fair, he would want to know too if he were them. He would never call himself a superhero, but it was moments like this that made Naruto truly understand the quote. With great power comes great responsibility. While it's true that your sacred gear allows you to tap into the vast potential of a fictional world of a children game made real. I wouldn't call it children-esque game, Grafia-san. I mean, there's this whole tournament for it, One of the biggest gaming events of the year if I do say so myself. Naruto interrupted her with a chuckle. Though, with how toxic the community was, the game was anything but children-friendly. Ahem, my deepest apology for my poor choices of words. Grafia coughed into her hand and said, but as I was saying, while your power comes from the game League of Legends itself, it still doesn't change the fact that you are able to call forth being with extraordinary powers. And even merge with them to wield their powers as yours, making you one of, if not, the most powerful sacred gear user we have ever encountered. With the diversity of your powers, as well as the aids of your champions, some are godly entities themselves. Now, this matter also involved Ryu's Ojusama. Some congratulated her for acquiring such powerful and promising servants, but some also questioned her capabilities to be your master. You see, she is a very capable high-class devil with a promising future, but on the other hand, she's also young and very inexperienced. It's not rare for reincarnated devils to start questioning their places under masters like her as they grow stronger, and more often than not, these devils have a tendency to break out of their master's grasps and become stray. Grafia then paused for a second before continuing seriously. I do believe you understand the necessity of precautionary measures after what happened that night a few days ago. So you guys are gonna seal my power away? Naruto asked calmly. He could tell Grafia was referring to that night when he was possessed by Evelyn. If it had happened before, there was without a doubt it could happen again, so he could see the logic behind the devil's need to take precautions against him. Grafia answered while shaking her head. Quite contrary, no. Several devils wish to know more about your power, as this can be the discovery of a new type of sacred gear, one with so many unknown factors and possibilities, even the Longinus tier cannot comprehend the full scale of it. You have vast potential as a devil, and you can contribute so much to the devil faction with your sacred gear, so we have no intention to hinder your growth, but at the same time we also cannot allow you to do whatever you want without supervision either. Sound like you guys are gonna give me a supervisor, someone that can keep their eyes on me and act if I cross the line or do anything stupid or something. The blonde trailed off, having a feeling that he had gotten it right. You're correct, Naruto-sama. Who will it be then? You? You're also correct on that one, Naruto-sama. Grafia answered with a very straight face. Ah, I see. I was half joking, but... Naruto nodded with a very genuine smile, but inside he was freaking out. He still remembered the chilling feeling Grafia had given him when she came to stop him and Rias from having sex, while he was being influenced by Evelyn's power. Please keep in mind that I will also prioritize Ryozoju-sama's safety and well-being first and foremost, which is why if you ever so much as think about hurting her, I will make sure that you won't live long enough to see the morning after, Naruto-sama. You don't have to tell me. Naruto chuckled forcefully before saying, more to himself than to Grafia, what the fuck did I get myself into? Don't be so nervous, Naruto-sama, you could have been stuck with worse. Grafia tilted her head to the side and gave him a small smile. I will also help you with your sacred gear in any way that I can. As capable as Ryozoju-sama is, she will need more guidance to help someone like you. She then put a hand on her chest, drawing his attention to her amazingly firm and large breasts, before Naruto forced himself to look away, trying his best to be a gentleman, and all that about not being a pervert. I'm sure that I am more than capable for the job. So you can always ask me for help if you ever have any problem. Well, when you put it that way. Naruto smiled as he leaned back against his pillows. Grafia was right. He could have been stuck with worse. Sure, she scared him, but not that he minded having someone like her around. If he ever got himself in deep shit like the last time with Evelyn, then Grafia could stop him before he did anything that he might regret later. Not to mention that she was also very beautiful and attractive. What is Ria's brother's opinion about me, by the way? He was there too when President gave the report about me to the higher-up devils, correct? Yes, Surza-sama thought you were pretty cool, and had been learning to play League of Legends with his son, Milikus. Naruto's sweat dropped at that as Grafia let out a heavy sigh, before she realized what she had done, and lowered her head apologetically. Oh, so sorry about that, Naruto-sama. It's just that his wife asked me to look after her son for her whenever she's away, and I can assure you that trying to play a video game 2 hours every day isn't doing him any good, especially half of it is with his father, one of the 4 leaders of our people, of all people. Don't worry about it, Grafia-san. Naruto smiled. Just 2 hours of gaming and Grafia thought it was too much. He just couldn't wait to see her reaction when she found out about the amount of time he spent playing League every day. You're just being responsible, that's all. Thank you for your kind words. The silver-haired maid then continued with a small smile. The children love you, by the way. They do? Grafia nodded her head in confirmation before explaining. Yes, the rating game between Razer Phoenix-sama and Rias Ryozoju-sama was an unofficial event, but it was not private, and could very well decide the future of our faction. So a lot of devil families had access to the live broadcast channel, and ended up watching it with their children, who all thought you were pretty cool being able to summon video games characters and weapons, and fight with them like that. Many has started calling you the League Summoner for the game that you summon your champions from. The League Summoner, huh? I think I like that. The blonde smiled adoringly at that. He could understand their feelings. He could still remember the joy and excitement he had felt when he learned that he could summon weapons, and then champions of his favorite video game. Having a power like that was like a childhood dream came true. I think I have troubled you long enough today, Naruto-sama. Please excuse me, but it's time for me to take my leave. Grafia said as she stood up from her seat and lowered her head to him. I will see you later. Please get some more rest for now, Naruto-sama. Oju-sama will be worried if you don't. And with that said, Grafia left the room, allowing Naruto to sink back into the bed, closing his eyes for a second before he turned his head and reached out to grab his champion's watch that he had noticed laying on the bedside table near the flower vase. Putting it on, the blonde checked if she was available, and then summoned her with a burst of magic. In a flash, an extremely beautiful and attractive young woman appeared in the air before him. Her hair was the color of blue, flowed into blonde and tied into 2 large twin tails a little bit to the back of her head by 2 large hair clips, with several bands framing her oval face. She wore a long, flowing shoulderless blue dress with gold accents that showed off her incredibly voluptuous figure and very, very large chest, quite contrary to a certain heiress who shared the same name. Perhaps the most noticeable thing about this young woman was the stringed instrument that floated down to rest on her lap as she tilted her head and gave him a heart-warming smile. Naruto felt his breath hitched, but the blonde did his best to calm his racing heart down as he greeted her with a smile. Hello, Sona. Good morning, Summoner. The young woman continued to smile at him, lips not moving as her voice echoed in his mind. The Maven of the Strings had been mute since birth, unable to utter a sound, but the telepathic link between Summoner and Champion allowed her to communicate freely with him. It's an honor to finally meet you. She lowered her head in a bow, delicate hands resting on the instrument on her laps. No, the pleasure is all mine. Naruto smiled at her before asking, hoping to get to know this beautiful champion better. So how's Demacia these days? Not quite the same as it used to be, Summoner. Ever since Silas and his rebellion, as well as the assassination of King Jarvan III, Demacia has changed. Sona answered, a sad smile on her face. Things must have been difficult for you and the mages there, huh? Naruto asked, nodding his head in understanding, before telling her, you know what, Sona, whenever you are on League's duties, you can stay in this world with me. He told her, smiling genuinely and making Sona look at him surprised. Magic users aren't shunned or disliked here, so you won't have to worry about anything ever again. You can play music without worry. I thank you for your kindness, Summoner. Sona lowered her head to him once again. Please give me some time to think about your offer. Demacia isn't quite home anymore, but it is still home. It's not so easy to leave something like that behind. I understand. Naruto smiled at her. Would you like me to play some music for you, Summoner? Sona asked, moving a hand on the strings of her etwal, her magical instrument. Please do, and call me Naruto. There's no need for you to call me Summoner. Sigh, I really should ask Professor HighSchool to spread the word out. Being called a Summoner makes me feel as old as him. He joked with a grin with his best HighSchool's impression, making Sona giggle softly into her hand. The instrument raised up magically and floated before her as Sona struck her first chord. There was no name for the piece. It was Sona's own creation and Naruto found himself relaxed the moment the first note was played. The Maven's hands brushed the strings gently, and her fingers danced like fireflies as long, twisting illusions rose around them, stretching and twirling as the very air hummed. It was brilliant. A language that only she, the instrument and her summoner alone shared. No one else could see them. Sona continued to slip her music into her summoner's heart. Music to warm his body. Music to soothe his mind, and music to give him strength to face the challenges ahead. All around the residence, there were only smiles and closed eyes. The Grimoire devils and their servants had become enamored, absorbed as they listened to the magical music that was being played by the Maven of the Strings, and could only wonder who could play such beautiful and wondrous music. So as I just explained, from this day on Ria's Grimoire, I'm also going to live in this house. I may be a little inexperienced, but please take care of me, Akasama, Otusama. Naruto was sitting in the living room of his house with his parents, while standing in front of him was the beautiful crimson-haired young woman that was his master Ria's Grimoire, who had her head lowered to Minato and Kushina Uzumaki. Also, on his left was none other than Ashia, who had tears in her eyes and an unpleasant face. Unlike Ria's and his parents, she seemed to be in a very bad mood. What am I supposed to do now? Kushina giggled excitedly into her hand as she looked at Ria's, clearly feeling amazed by the young woman's beauty and attractiveness. First it is Ashia-chan, now it's Ria-san. It's like I'm going to have two amazing daughters-in-law now. Such kind words for someone like me, Akasama. Truly I don't deserve them. Ria stated proudly as she lowered her head to the loving mother of her pawn, who was still feeling surprised even after he had discussing it with Ria's. It had claimed that she wished to strengthen her relationship with him, who she now started. I'm proud of you, son. Minato sobbed quietly as he placed a hand on Naruto's shoulder and told him with a very, very proud smile on his face, making his eyebrow twitch, what a man you have become. Take good care of them. Now, Naruto. Ria's then turned her attention over to her pawn, smiling sweetly at him. We have your parents' permission now, so I am now a member of your family now. Can you please help me take my trunk to my room right away? Right away, President. Naruto nodded his head and replied to her with a smile. The house had two guest rooms, one of which had already been occupied by Ashia. It made him wonder if he could really offer Sona and some of his champions a home with him here, safe from the dangers of Runeterra, as Ahari had been hinting that she wanted to live with him too after her journey in Bilgewater was over. As Sona agreed to his offer, then maybe he could talk about it with his master. See if she could help him solve this not-so-little problem. Naruto-san, I will help too. Before he could even stand up, Ashia grabbed his hand and tried to follow him with a cute pout on her face. It seems that the only hope is polygamy, but it will be against the teachings of God, but at this rate I don't want to lose. What was that about polygamy? Naruto asked with a raised eyebrow. Where does she even learn those words? Did she make some weird friends at school he didn't know about? Momo surely wouldn't teach her something like that. It's nothing. When Naruto turned to ask her, Ashia just huffed and looked away to avoid his gaze. Ashia seemed to have been in a very bad mood ever since Ria's arrived at the doorstep of his house, but Naruto only had a hunch, so he didn't dare to come to a final conclusion. His mother, meanwhile, seemed to know what's going on, as she had a playful and somewhat mischievous smile on her face, as she looked at the three of them. Here, Naruto, that should go over there. Ria's instructed, pointing her hand around the room. By the way, Grafia will be moving in to live with us next week. Ashia both gasped in shock, but Naruto didn't look so surprised as this about her being my supervisor. Yes. Ria's nodded her head in confirmation as she finished putting down her Gundam action figures. She hid it well, but Naruto could see that she didn't quite approve of having Grafia around them. Why, he had no idea, but maybe it was because having the silver-haired maid around would be a constant reminder of her weakness and inabilities to be his master, as several high-class devils had put it from what he had been told. Although Naruto couldn't help but feel that it wasn't quite the main reason. Nevertheless, starting from tomorrow she would join him in his training with his teachers, the masters of Runeterra. I want to become stronger too, she had told him. So where will she be staying? Naruto couldn't help but ask. Just so you know, this is the last available room in my house. You don't have to worry about it, Naruto-kun, my family will take care of the renovation. Ryuz gave him a meaningful wink, but before he could ask her what did she mean by that, Ryuz had stood up and asked him anyway, why don't you take a shower with me? I can wash your back for you. Eh? Naruto spluttered, his face becoming almost as red as his master's hair. Are you serious? Yeah, why not? Ryuz asked as if it was obvious before she put a hand on her chest and said, looking over at his computer, and once we're done, let's play some League with each other. I will be your duo partner. No? Finally having enough, Ashia exploded and jumped in between them with teary eyes. You can't just come in and take my place like that, President-san. I am Naruto-san support. Ashia. I'm sorry, but from now on it will be like this whether you like it or not. Plus, Naruto's main role isn't even AG. He's a mid laner and I've been practicing to be his jungler. Our synergy is going to be like Batman and Robin, or Faker and Bengi. Ryuz said as she crossed her arms under her ample bust, wearing a serious look on her face while looking at Ashia, who refused to back down. How about we settle it with a 1v1? The winner gets to duel with Naruto later. Ooh, I don't want to lose, but why do I feel like I'm going to lose? Ashia spluttered as Ryuz grabbed her laptop. Naruto could only look at them. Why do they make it feel like being his duo partner such a big deal? It's not like he was going to grind as hard as he had done before, now that he had gotten out of bronze, and was now silver too, after playing just about a dozen games or so with Ashia, proving to everyone, and even himself, that he just wasn't that bad at the game. Though, his goal remained the same, climbing to Challenger, so that one day he could become a pro player, and win the Summoner's Cup at least one. Naruto, Heimerdinger has something to tell you. Oh sure. The blonde answered when he heard Ahari's voice. The nine-tailed Gumiho was the only one who he had a permanent telepathic link with, so the two of them could communicate anytime they wished. What's up, Professor? Ahem, my young summoner. I think you should know that there's going to be a new champion in the league. Check your watch. Really? Naruto asked, smiling excitedly as he raised his hand and turned on his watch to see the new champion. However, his face fell a little when he saw that they were listed as a champion of the Shadow Isles. But when the new champion hologram figure was displayed from the watch, Naruto had his eyes widened in surprise, because she looked nothing like someone who came from the Shadowlands of Runeterra. It was a young woman, and she reminded him a bit of Seraphine, bright and radiant, beautiful like a doll with her bright blue hair tied into twin tails draping over her chest with large drill-like curls and black ribbons keeping them in place. As she donned herself in a high-class black and white dress with black frills and a purple bow in front of her stomach. The most noticeable thing about her, however, was that she carried with her massive scissors. Her name and alias was Gwen, the hallowed seamstress. The familiar force. Naruto repeated Ryu's words. It had been a week since the raiding game against Razer Phoenix, and things had pretty much gone back to the way it had been before the Yakitori douchebag's arrival, with Naruto carrying on with pretty much the same daily routine. Yes. I think it's about time you and Ashia get your own familiars. The familiar forest is one of the locations for new devils to find for themselves their first familiars. Ryu said as she drank the tea Keno had made for her. For us devils, familiars are our partners. They can help us perform a variety of different tasks, including but not limited to the delivering of messages, searching for objects and people, spying on someone and any other within their range of abilities that you can think of. Almost every familiars also has the ability to use magic to some extent, and some familiars can even fight alongside their masters. As she explained the concept behind familiars to Naruto, who had Yuumi proudly sitting on his lap and having him brushed her back with a comb, Ryuz held up her right hand. A magic circle spread across her palm, and after a brief flare of magic followed by a small cloud of smoke, a tiny red bat appeared and floated above her hand, flapping its wings repeatedly. This is my familiar. She smiled at Naruto. She helps me with finding people and handing out flyers. In fact, she was the one who gave Iseihidu one of my contract flyers the day the fallen angel Rainer tried to kill him. Oh damn, so I guess I owe her for that. Naruto nodded his head in acknowledgement at the back creature, and gave her a grin, making her smile back at him in response before Ryuz dismissed her, sending her back to whenever her familiar stayed whenever she was not needed. Naruto then turned his attention over to the other members of Ryu's peerage, and asked them in interest. So what types of familiars do you guys have? Oh, this is my familiar Naruto-kun. Akeno smiled as she summoned her familiar, a small green oni-like creature with a tuft of hair on the top of his head. He's just the cutest little thing, isn't he? I actually have a small family of them. Smiling, Kiba decided to join in, summoning a little bird. This is my familiar. He introduced before quickly sending the creature away when he noticed how Yuumi was looking at his familiar. Kaneko then summoned her own familiar, an adorable kitten with white hair just like her owner's. This is Shiro. The cat meowed softly at them, and when Yuumi responded to her, Naruto knew that the two were well acquaintances. The magical cat and her companion had stayed at Kaneko's place a few times before the raiding game against Razer Phoenix, so Naruto had no doubt that Kaneko had summoned her familiar and introduced them to each other. So if you two don't have any more questions, Ryuz said, then tonight we're going to go to the familiar forest to get you to your familiars. That night, the peerage of Ryuz Gremory appeared in the familiar forest in a crimson magic circle, with the crest of the Gremory devil household, dressing in the clothes that they were most comfortable with. While Ashia, Akeno, and Kaneko had chosen to wear their school uniforms, Kiba came in with a black tracksuit. Ryuz was wearing a short black skirt, and a dark red shirt with black designs, and a pair of red and matching color boots. Naruto wore his usual outfit, a black hoodie jacket over a white shirt and black pants, along with his orange sneakers. At the same time, he had Yuumi floating beside him, writing on the sentient book of thresholds as usual. This is the familiar force. Ryuz introduced with a smile on her face as she extended a hand forward. Here, you can find many different types of magical creatures that you can turn into your familiars. All two recently reincarnated devils plus a cat, and her book companion could only stare at the surrounding forest before them. The forest trees stood over them, their withered trunks and leafless branches casting shadows in hypnotic and haunting ways along the ground. The earth underneath their feet crunched as they moved, with dried twigs snapping under their heels, as the air appeared to be covered in gloomy clouds. Whoa? Yuumi said in amazement as she looked at the forest before her. This place reminds me of the forests on the Shadow Isles. Really? Naruto asked, before remembering that Yuumi had once gotten lost on the Shadow Isles, looking for her master with book. Creepy places. Though, we met Makai there once. He's quite a nice tree though. The magical cat stated, referring to the rageful but still kindred truant who tirelessly fought against the unnatural horrors of the Shadow Isles, to preserve life and restore his home to his former beauty. To how it had once been before Viego the Ruined King caused the Great Ruination, and turned the Blessed Isles into the land of insatiable, predatory spirits of the dead. If there was a champion from the Shadow Isles that he was willing to summon if the situation called for it, then Makai was one of them. Though, from what he had been hearing about Gwen, the hallowed seamstress, it was very possible that he could summon and work with her in the near future. Today is a full moon, a perfect time for us devils to find our familiars. Ryuz explained as she pointed her hand up at the red moon above them. It is also the reason I can't just take you here to get you familiars, even though it's okay for a newly reincarnated devil to have one, because we have also need to wait for a specific time of the month, and book an appointment with the familiar master. Now, where is? Gotta catch them all. Before Ryuz could finish while looking around as if she was searching for someone, a cry was heard, and everyone looked up to see a man standing on a tree branch. Naruto shuddered, because the guy literally gave him the impression of a Satoshi from Pokemon, gone horribly wrong that grew up, experienced the hardships of adulthood, but still refused to accept that he should no longer wear boy shorts, a white tank top and a backward cap. I'm Zatouji, the familiar master in training. I can catch any familiar that you can think of. The man began to introduce himself while performing a series of strange Super Sentai poses that looked lame enough to be rejected by the production company, leaving Ashia and Naruto to sweat drop while staring up at him. Did he get his style from Pokemon or was it Super Sentai? Naruto had to wonder. Though, his upbeat attitude and eccentric behaviors were a nice change of pace in the gloomy atmosphere of the familiar forest, which had started to affect Ashia. If he didn't show up and lighten up the mood with his weird antics, then Naruto would have talked to Ashia about it, and maybe even asked Yuumi if she could use her cuteness to help Ashia. He might look odd, but Zatouji-san professional. He is the one who helped Yudo-kun, Kaneko-chan and myself acquire our own familiars. Akeno leaned forward and whispered into Naruto's ear, which made him shudder a bit because her lips almost touched his earlobe, her breath tickling his skin. Zatouji-san, these are the two devils I have told you about. They're here for their familiars today. Ryuz introduced, gesturing her hand toward Ashia and Naruto. Upon looking at the latter and noticing the cat writing on the book floating next to him, Zatouji's eyes sparkled with excitement, and immediately caused him to leap down from the tree branch to run toward Naruto, eyeing Yuumi carefully. The cat just stared at him as if he was crazy. Oh? What type of cat is this? She's magical, correct? He asked, bombarding Naruto and Yuumi with questions. How come I have never seen one like her before? Where did you acquire one like her? Is it possible to breed more like her? Yikes. You're weird. Stay away from me. Yuumi hissed at him and fired a prowling projectile from the tip of her tail, though it flew awfully slow, and one didn't need to be a genius to know it was dangerous. So the familiar master in training wasted no time to jump to the side and dodge it as it hit the ground and explode upon impact. Wow, she can talk too. Now that is an amazing familiar, can I touch? But before he could continue on, Zatouji felt something hard pressing against his forehead, and looking to see Naruto holding a silver revolver at his head. Don't get too excited, pal. Touch my cat, and I will blow your head off. Naruto stated firmly as Yuumi looked up from behind his shoulder and stuck out a tongue at the familiar master. Right, sorry about that. Zatouji chuckled nervously, while holding his hands up in defense. It was after this that Naruto took his gun back, and made it disappear. So, what type of familiar do you want? Strong, fast or poisonous? The last thing I need now is something to remind me of Timo and his annoying poisonous mushrooms. Sure, he was extremely useful in the match against Razer and Purge, but it still didn't change the fact that Teemo was one of his least favorite champions for his annoying ultimate ability. So don't talk about poisonous things out of the blue. What kind do you recommend for us? Zataoji then took something that looked like a catalog and flipped to a certain page before showing it to Naruto. What he is showing was a ferocious-looking dragon with beautiful celestial blue scales, its drawing taking over the entire page. This is the one I would recommend for someone as badass as you are, Zataoji said, and Naruto could detect flattery in his tone. One of the Dragon Kings. Chaos Karma Dragon, Tiamat. She is a legendary dragon, and is also the only female among the Dragon Kings. So far, no demon has managed to capture her. This one is quite obvious and is said to be as strong as a Demon King. Ugh, no, thank you very much, Naruto stated with a deadpan expression. He's here looking for a familiar, not trying to get himself killed by a Dragon King with the strength of a Demon King. How about a cat familiar like Kaneko? Yuumi suggested excitedly. But no dog or rat please. Naruto pointed a finger at her to agree with his feline champion. Having a dog or rat as a familiar with Yuumi around was a big no. I would like something cute, if it is possible. Ashia stepped up and told the familiar master, who then stared at her in disbelief. No, why can't you newbie just can't do it right? You will want familiars to be useful and strong. Zataoji made a fist in his hand as he spun around and shifted into a heroic pose. A devil needs a strong companion to accompany them into battle. That's why one must always aim for. So what is your familiar then? Naruto asked with a very straight face, causing Zataoji to shut his mouth immediately. You talk about catching the big and strong ones, but what is your familiar? Do you even have one that is as powerful as you want us to have? You're a familiar master, so you must have a legendary familiar at your disposal, am I right? Oh my. Akeno giggled softly into her head, while looking at the face Zataoji was making after Naruto's speech. Ahaha. Good one young man, good one. Zataoji then suddenly busted out in awkward laughter, before turning around and showing Naruto another drawing of a 9-headed snake-like creature. Which was kinda obvious. What its name was. Please seriously consider this one. A hydra. It is incredible and has a deadly poison. There is no one in the world that can withstand its poison, and above all that, it is also immortal. The worst creature in the world, which can even kill the master himself. Pretty useful, isn't it? Yikes. Naruto then turned to Yuumi as she gave him a disapproving look, telling her with the same straight face as he had before. You know what, Yuumi? I think you can use last chapter on him anytime you want. Just blast his ass off somewhere he can find one of these creatures for himself. What pleasure. Now, calm down you two. Rhea smiled softly as she put a hand on Naruto's shoulder, and the other petting Yuumi. Dragons and hydras are both great, so it would be awesome if you can acquire one for yourself. We have plenty of time, so we can always look for one. Seriously? Naruto asked in disbelief. What? It's amazing to have a strong familiar and as well as useful, you know. Smiling, Rhys told him while waving a hand. Behind them, the rest of her peerage seemed to agree with her. They all looked so positive that he could catch a familiar as powerful as it was dangerous. You can do it, Bronze-senpai. Yup, even Kaneko, you were able to make it out of bronze after 11 years, so I am sure that you can catch a hydra for yourself. Still, Naruto wasn't convinced. The blonde shook his head, pointing his hand at the hydra in Zataoji's book. With something like that, I'd rather get Cho'Gath to be my familiar. Why can't we just start off with something basic? Plus, he had Yuumi to help him out whenever she was around, and he had no doubt that she's so much more useful than most familiars he could find in the forest. Let's just find Ashia a familiar first. It's not like I am in dire need for one. Rias and her group nodded their heads in understanding. He was a summoner. He could summon any creature-type champions that related to League to his aid, so having a familiar wouldn't make that much of a difference for him, unless it was a very, very powerful one that could affect even his status. Very well then, let's find something cute for the little miss here, Zataoji declared. This guy? Naruto muttered in annoyance with a tick mark on his forehead. Please follow me this way, Zataoji said as he walked on ahead and led them further into the forest. This forest has many different areas in it. Right now we are in the area where familiars more aligned with darkness gather, but of course most of them are not the cutest creatures you can find. If we go to a different location, however, I am sure that we can find plenty of cute familiars for the little miss. He then led them to a beautiful lake, with sparkling water that seemingly glowed even in the middle of the night with a red moon above them. For example, there's an Undine water spirit that lives in this lake, Zataoji explained to them. Undines are maidens of pure hearts and beautiful bodies, so I am sure that if you boys wish to establish a harem of beautiful familiars, you can always find a suitable companion in them. I bet the lake has a lot of fish. Naruto, do you bring a fishing rod? Let's go fishing, Yuumi told her summoner excitedly as they both ignored Zataoji and his speech about Undine, as well as his comment about them. Before he could answer her, however, the water of the lake suddenly shone brightly. Oh, it looks like you are in luck, the familiar master shouted excitedly and cheerfully. The group then waited patiently for her to emerge, and they didn't have to wait long. First, it was a mop of shiny blue hair and a transparent robe, following by a massive and muscular body of insane biceps, calves thicker than a man's waist, underneath a breastplate that appeared to be made of iron and a scarred face that looked like that of a seasoned gladiator. What type of fish is that? Yuumi asked in confusion, making Zataoji look at her as if he was offended. No, that is an undine. He explained, you see, the world of undines and their kinds is based on power and they always need to fight for their territories. If it is not strong, you cannot have your own lake, so this one is definitely a high level. I recommend either of you to take this one. An aquatic familiar specializing in the physical department will not be a waste. I wonder how Seth will fare against one of these insane-looking undines in a hand-to-hand combat battle. Naruto scratched his chin thoughtfully before looking at Ashia, but I don't think she's the familiar you are looking for, right? Yes, Naruto-san. Ashia answered him with a smile. When another undine arrived to start a challenge for the lake, the group decided to leave, not wanting to be caught in their violent battle. They continued to travel through the forest, meeting a variety of creatures that came out of bushes to greet them. Some were extremely cute, so Ashia wanted to make them her familiars, but Zataoji managed to convince her out of it, and dragged them off to another area, before she could make the final decision. Oh? The familiar master suddenly exclaimed, pointing his finger upward to a tree branch. It's a Sprite Dragon. Everyone looked up and saw a small dragon, with blue diamond-like scales and a small pair of wings, sitting on a tree branch. It's a very rare magical dragon that uses blue electricity. He's so cute. Ashia exclaimed excitedly as she looked up at the dragon. Indeed. This is my first time seeing a Sprite Dragon. Rias nodded her head and told them. It appears that he's still young, but if one wants to capture him, now is the time. Zataoji explained, you certainly won't be able to do it when he's an adult. He won't be as strong as the Dragon Kings, but he will definitely rise to become the strongest dragons. Damn, now I really want one for myself. Naruto said and rolled up his sleeves. Hold on Ashia, I will go up there and catch him for. But before Naruto could finish, he saw the Sprite Dragon looking up at the space above them, forcing him to do the same. When he saw what was coming toward them, he immediately gave the order without needing to think twice. Yuumi. Shield on everyone. The cat didn't need to ask why, she just did what her summoner told her to, and flew around the ground to create a dome of magical barrier around them, just in time to protect the group from something that looked like gelatin with a greenish shoe raining down from above them. Ugh, what are these things? Yuumi asked as she hid behind her own shield, looking at the green slimes as they fell to the ground, melting away the grass around them. The slimes then got up and circled around them, crawling onto Yuumi's shield and trying to break in. Zack. Is it you? I didn't summon him, Yuumi. Naruto said as he looked at all the slimes around them. Yuumi did have a point. They did look like screw-like cells. Well, as you can see, these are just simple slimes. Zataoji explained after taking a closer look at the slime, they usually act together to attack their victims. Even if they are monsters, these slimes only focus on clothes on female secretion, so they are not really dangerous. Sounds like something that comes straight out of one of those hentai anime to me. Naruto commented with a humorous chuckle as he summoned Rumble's Tursimex flamethrower. No seriously, why does something like that really existed? Time for some pest control. Oh my, allow me to help you, Naruto-kun. Bakeno said as she stepped forward, her fingers crackling with electricity. Behind her, Rias and the others quickly followed their examples, summoning their magic and weapons. When I count to 3, Yuumi, lower your shield and protect Ashia. Naruto told his feline champion and turned on the flamethrower on 3. 1, 2. Before he could speak up the final count, however, the Sprite Dragon took a leap off of the tree branch and flew down toward them. Once he was close enough, the little dragon started firing blue bolts of lightning toward the slimes, and fried them to ashes, removing them from Yuumi's shield with ease. Once that the slimes crawling on her shield had all been taken down, Yuumi lowered her shields and allowed the devils to take care of the ones on the ground, with Naruto using his flamethrower to make sure that they wouldn't cause trouble to anyone in the future. With their combined efforts, it did not take it long for the slimes to be totally exterminated. Everyone fell into silence though when the Sprite Dragon shot forward and latched onto Ashia's chest, before he started rubbing its head against her. Ashia looked surprised by the affectionate gesture, but quickly seemed to melt from the cuteness of the dragon, and hugged him back, rubbing his head with one hand, causing it to coo in appreciation. He's a male dragon, so he will be attached to females of other species, especially one with pure heart. Zataoji explained as the dragon continued to enjoy being spoiled by Ashia rather happily. From what I can see here, he seems to have chosen the girl as his master. Can I really make this dragon into my familiar? Ashia asked hesitantly, despite holding the dragon very closely. Of course. He chose you, so it's only right that it becomes your familiar. Zataoji replied matter-of-factly. Everyone comes here looking for their familiars, but there are also times when the familiars are the one who choose their masters. You know, change your outfit and I will take your words very seriously, old man. Naruto said with a deadpan expression, making Zataoji chuckle at him. The blonde then walked toward Ashia and looked to congratulate her for acquiring such a cute and potentially powerful familiar, only for the blue dragon to snap his head toward him and look at him dangerously. Whoa, easy there buddy. The dragon growled. He doesn't like you very much. Yuumi suddenly spoke up from beside Naruto. He thinks you are a delinquent who is trying to hurt his master. You understand him? The blonde asked in surprise, looking at his feline champion. Of course. Yuumi replied proudly as she floated toward the blue dragon, who looked up at her and seemed to start talking to Yuumi. Oh no, he's not my master. He's my summoner. What did he say? He wants to know if I am your familiar. Yuumi answered him before she asked, much to his surprise, do you want me to be your familiar? Can I? Naruto couldn't help but ask. Yuumi replied with a question and talked about it like it wasn't that big of a deal. Yeah, why not? What about your master? Nor was Yuumi's master, the Yordle enchantress she had been traveling the magical realms of Runeterra looking for. In a way, Yuumi could be considered as familiar too, with how many times he had been prioritizing summoning her, and entrusting her with protecting Ashia or any of his friends. The familiar contract magic would only make it official between them, allowing him to summon her whenever he wanted, which he could already do from the very beginning. Naruto had wanted to ask her to become his familiar, but decided to hold off and wait until he could meet Nora and ask her for permission, as he respected the love Yuumi had for her. I'm sure she wouldn't mind. She always wants to have someone looking out for me whenever she goes off somewhere, like what she is doing now. The feline champion answered and waved a paw at him, with Book shaking a little to show that it agreed with its companion. Plus, you won't be able to find a familiar as amazing and as cool as I am. Although, I demand an additional fish in return for my service as your familiar. I'm sure I can manage that. Naruto smiled as he looked at Yuumi, who smiled at him. Very well Yuumi. I'd love nothing more than to have you as my familiar. This is great, Ria said finally. Behind her, the rest of her peerage smiled approvingly, no one more so than Kaneko herself as she watched Naruto and Yuumi together. Then let's prepare the familiar contract you two. Congratulations for acquiring your first ever familiar. A few minutes later, Naruto and Ashia both stood with their chosen familiars standing inside their respective magic circles, which then glowed brightly as they started chanting the vow needed to turn the cat and dragon into their familiars. Once the magic ended and the contracts were formed, the magic circle died down and allowed the Sprite Dragon to fly back to Ashia, and Yuumi to jump on Book. Ashia smiled softly as she pet the blue dragon in her arms. Thank you for choosing me to be your master, Raito-kun. Raito? Riaz asked with a raised eyebrow. Ashia blushed slightly before explaining, well, it uses lightning, so I took her Jeki, and combined it with Naruto-san's name. Naruto pointed at himself before asking in surprise, you named it after me? Yes. Ashia replied with a small blush before asking nervously, is that a problem? Naruto shook his head and smiled radiantly at Ashia. No, not at all Ashia. To be honest, I really feel honored that you before he could finish. Raito shot a bolt of lightning at him, but Yuumi instantly formed a shield around her new master summoner, preventing him from getting shocked. No harming my master, Raito. She said disapprovingly at the blue dragon, who huffed and turned his head away. Please don't attack Naruto-san again, Raito-kun. He's my precious friend. Ashia told her dragon familiar with a nervous smile, while Naruto was just chuckling in amusement at the little dragon. Little did he know that he was being watched by a certain cloaked figure. Short Omake just for the humor and not to be taken seriously. In a flash, the boss, Seth, appeared. It was I, Seth. The crime lord of Ionia's criminal underworld shouted confidently as he pointed his thumb at himself, a wide smile on his face. Now, where are you, Nar? Before he could finish, he was met with a fist to the face by a tall and muscular figure, which was revealed to be an Undine from the lake in the familiar forest. The boss gritted his teeth, not in pain but annoyance as he flipped around in midair, before landing on the ground a few feet away, looking at the massive water spirit before him. Now, who might you be beautiful? Seth asked as he cracked his knuckle. The Undine just let out a roar, before charging at the human Vistaya hybrid, who then shot forward, and engaged her in a fierce battle of hand-to-hand combat, but with absolutely no techniques whatsoever. Hahaha. Finally, a worthy opponent. Seth shouted as he pushed back the muscular Undine with an uppercut, followed by a heavy blow to the chin. Our battle will be legendary. And with that declaration, he rushed toward the Undine, his whole body glowing brightly with the magic of the Vistaya. On the tree near the lake, Naruto sat with Yuumi sitting on his lap, watching in amusement as Seth fought the Undine, who he was rooting for to beat the crap out of Seth. Thanks for listening. I do hope you enjoyed. If you want a next part of this video, like, subscribe, and comment down below, and turn on that bell notification, and also check out the other videos that I have created, and enjoy. See you in the next video. Peace.